What's up, YouTube? This is Kai and Cannon from Arguably Georgia Sports, and today we're going to be recapping Week 11 of the college football season. We are flying through the season so fast, so let's get right into it.
Okay, I just want to say one thing. Upset week of the year? Come on, people! This is crazy. So many teams got knocked out in November, only the second week, and there were so many upsets.
Well, I mean, there are still...
And there's still a lot of time to go.
I know, they're still controlling their own destiny. All of those teams that lost, except for Auburn.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into who went down, although you should probably already know.
So, yeah, let's start with UCLA playing Oregon State. UCLA
Finally rebounding.
Well, I mean, their quarterback went down. Tough season. Very disappointing, but hopefully they can rebound next year.
Stanford, Oregon, the battle of the should-be goods. Christian McCaffrey,
Except
135 yards. That's probably, in the beginning of the year, he was expected to get 300 yards, 200, 300 yards every game.
No, I wouldn't. That's way too much. 135 yards, 3 touchdowns is pretty dang good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Is.
Actually, yeah, there are some running backs who, like, the most they've gotten is 2 touchdowns in a game, and
can I point something out? Oregon, with this loss, has 7 losses, and that means that they are not bowl eligible anymore. Oregon, a team who was 2 years ago in the national title game. It's just unbelievable.
Houston started out a great year. They are now 8-2, beating Tulane 30-18. At the beginning, they beat Oklahoma,
who turned out to be kind of
people
soft.
expected them to be amazing. My friend, he really likes Florida State. He's like, I'm gonna rub it in these people's faces, it's like they're actually good now because they lost to Houston last year, but now they're good. Yeah. But no, just no. So
Army
really
losing.
something.
Army is 5-5, just trying to become bowl eligible.
And Notre Dame actually has had a very bad year, and this is actually good for them.
And Notre Dame was 1 loss away from becoming unbowl eligible. Oregon and Notre Dame might not be bowl eligible. How insane
Oregon
is that
is
sound?
not bowl
Well,
eligible.
yeah, but I'm talking both of them might. And then Vanderbilt going down to Missouri, who a lot of people
Missouri, yes, I expected Vanderbilt to win this.
a lot of people did, yeah, and Missouri
Because Vanderbilt has had such a good year.
by
for
their
Vanderbilt.
by their standards, but not,
And then Missouri having a terrible year. Last year they weren't nearly as bad. And BYU beating Southern Utah 37-7.
Nothing really unexpected there. Georgia State losing again turned out to be kind of crap this year.
Miami beating Virginia. So now they're 6-4. Bowl eligible. I mean, starting out first year with their coach. Now they're 34-14 over Virginia, who came actually very close to beating Louisville. But that's not very. That's not a very impressive win, really.
Georgia Tech's gonna beat Virginia. They're 2-8. They're 1-5 in the ACC. They had played a great game defensively, at least against Louisville. I'm
pretty sure Virginia's gonna lose the rest of their games.
Yeah. They're playing Tech. They're playing both Techs in the ACC.
NC State, Syracuse. NC State won that game, 35-20. Northwestern over Purdue. 45-17.
Purdue eliminated
and Michigan State lost bowl. They are 3-7.
That means
and they beat
Rutgers 49-0.
49-0.
I mean, but Rutgers is probably the worst Power 5 team there is. No, by any stretch, but except maybe for Kansas. But MSU is now not bowl eligible either. We're talking about Oregon, MSU, and possibly Notre Dame.
Navy up here is having a good year actually for Navy. 7-2, just 2 losses. They beat Tulsa 42-40. That was a very high scoring game. It was an interesting game. SMU over East Carolina, who was actually ranked at one point, weren't they?
I think 2 years ago they were. But SMU
55-31 over East Carolina.
SMU, who last year, 2 years ago, was one of the worst football programs in the country. They've really rebounded, had a decent season, at least by their standards. And same with UCF. And now UCF went from 0-12, and now they're bowl eligible. That's
yeah,
impressive.
because they beat Cincinnati 24-3, who has had not a absolutely terrible season.
And
Tennessee beating Kentucky,
keeping
to
their hopes
almost clench the East.
No, they're not they're not. Shut.
Florida's
Shut.
going.
No.
Florida's going to lose to LSU. No question.
They have not clinched the East.
Virtually, Florida's going to lose.
No,
to
what I was gonna say is
LSU.
they're keeping their hopes alive.
Florida's gonna lose to LSU, and then we're gonna have Tennessee, because they're gonna have the same records, and Tennessee is going to win because Tennessee beat Florida.
Tennessee has to get through Vanderbilt, who, according to you, is a very good team.
I did not say that. I said
yeah.
I said they're having a good season for Vanderbilt, which is not very good at all. Florida over South Carolina, 20-7.
Yeah, well, and this is here. Scroll back down. This game. Okay, so Florida stays in the driver's seat, but wasn't this just a classic Will Muschamp game? I mean, for South Carolina, they score great defense on both sides, really.
Yeah,
But just offense was sluggish.
offense is always bad for both of these teams normally. LSU over Arkansas. I expected Arkansas to win this game, frankly. 38-10. My bad.
Well, yeah, you look at. Well, this is kind of a revenge.
Look at how
of last
good a
year.
season though that Arkansas's had. They
6-4.
They were not bad against Alabama. They
We're not bad against A&M
not
for
bad
the
against
for the
A&M.
most. For the
They
most
were
part.
not bad against Ole Miss. Then they beat Florida. Bad.
But here, this was a game that really avenged LSU's loss last year. If you remember, LSU was highly favored, and Arkansas came into Baton Rouge and beat the crap out of them. And that's exactly what LSU did. And then Washington State beating Cal. Washington State has just lit up everybody this year. Washington might have to watch out.
They will. I mean, especially after that loss, they may be a little bit slow to come back.
But we'll cover that in a little bit. Yeah,
We'll see
so,
about that.
Yeah, and then Boise State beating Hawaii. Boise State is 9-1. That's a pretty good season.
52-16. This is pretty good.
Well, Hawaii is nothing. And then Minnesota quietly, even though they lost this game, is 7-3. I don't think many people noticed that Minnesota can play. Nebraska winning though, finally rebounding after a horrible loss to Ohio State and a loss to Wisconsin the week before.
Virginia Tech over Texas, 24-10. Wow.
You mean West Virginia over Texas?
Yeah, no, Virginia Tech. But Texas did such a good year after the very first couple games when they beat Notre Dame, who they were expected to lose by a lot.
Now that Notre Dame win
Notre
is
Dame's
kinda crap.
terrible, but
Yeah.
it is just
I kind of expected this though, because Texas they're not reliable as a favorite, but when they're an underdog, they seem to just have something in them that they're always going to put up a good fight. They've pulled up random upsets here and there. West Virginia though,
West Virginia, like they still only had one loss, and they could possibly. If
And-
everyone else does terrible, this is
Yeah, I mean, it's
a very,
possible.
very long
It's
shot.
possible.
They could not very possibly, but possibly,
sneak their way into the playoffs. Who knows?
there's a slight chance. But now we're gonna work our way into one of the first upsets: Georgia Tech over Virginia Tech, 30-20. I was not expecting this.
Yeah, I follow Georgia Tech on a daily basis. I'll be reading about them, but I was expecting them to put up a good fight. They don't. Georgia Tech doesn't get blown out. They don't. They're gonna lose games, but they're not gonna get blown out. And I was expecting that this game, and they pulled out and won. And the score is kind of misleading because it was 30-7 in the fourth quarter, and then Virginia Tech scored 13 late points. But really, what a game! Marcus Marshall, who finally came through for the Jackets, 143 yards and a touchdown. So yeah,
Oklahoma State, 1 point over Texas Tech.
and what a
I was expecting more from OSU.
yeah, I guess, but I mean,
Because, it's Texas Tech.
this is Big 12. Big 12, no teams have defense except for maybe West Virginia. Colorado, who's also quietly number 12, beat Arizona. So, and Arizona is now 2-8. Arizona has this thing. Arizona football is usually good. They've been embarrassed this year. It really has. And then Oklahoma beating Baylor. Oklahoma, after a rough start to the season, is back to 8-2. What do you think on that?
I mean, I wasn't surprised. I thought though that Baylor would be a little bit closer on this game, because really it's not very close. Penn State beating Indiana.
No, but this game was close all the way into the fourth quarter.
Oh yeah, it was.
I called it last week. This game is going to be close. This was close, and Indiana just they come so close in so many games against so many good teams, and they just blow it late. It's tough.
Yeah, and then Georgia over Auburn, our second big upset. This was actually a huge game for both of these teams, because if you look at it, Georgia would have been had the chance to have not been bowl eligible, because if they had won this, I mean, if they had lost
they were
this,
going to lose to ULL. I mean, they were going to beat that.
Because if they lost this game, and then they could possibly lose to Georgia Tech, then they'd be 6-6. Oh well, that would be both. Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't count out ULL, because I mean, remember the Nichols game.
Remember the Nichols game.
So
13-7. Very much defensive Georgia. Their only touchdown was a defensive touchdown. Mm-hmm. They had 2 field goals. So they
Rodrigo Blankenship.
They were not very strong in and Rodrigo Blankenship has only missed 2 field goals this year. Mm-hmm. He had 11 straight until he broke that streak in that game. But
I didn't see that. How close was it?
It was just a little bit short. It was short.
How long was the field goal?
Oh, I think it was 48 yards.
Dang. So yeah, it was a long field goal. Ole Miss beating A&M upset.
Another big upset.
And an A&M season is slowly dying.
Yeah, it was great at the beginning, and then they lost to Alabama, and then
is Kevin Sumlin back on the hot seat?
No.
No? You sure?
No. Not if they win out.
Okay, let's say they lose one more game. Is he on
if
the
they
hot
lose
seat?
one more game, possibly. But I mean, I still
they lose
think
to LSU. Yeah, I think that he is.
I think that they could still make it though. He could still stay, because what a year has it been? He came from the hot seat, and then they had a chance at the playoffs. I mean, they say they blew it, but still, Wisconsin beating Illinois 48-3.
And now this next game, listen to this. Louisville playing Wake Forest, and if you just see the score, like if you didn't watch the game, you're just going to see the score, you're just like, oh, it's normal. It's
34 points
in the fourth
quarter. So actually,
Wake Forest had the lead.
Wake Forest
this game
was
close.
leading until late in the third quarter.
No, early fourth. And then
too,
it was just pick after pick. It was turnover after turnover. It was just terrible. And
I was surprised at this next game. Ohio State over Maryland, 62-3.
Ohio State's really bounced back. I think that.
What in the world?
Well, I mean, now with all these losses, Ohio State might just sneak their way in back to the playoff. I would hate to have that happen.
I don't think that they
have to go through Michigan.
Yeah. Well, also if Penn State, Penn State has to lose out,
and then
this is actually really good for Penn State.
Yeah,
all of the top 3 losing.
Because we're talking
about top 3 of the top 4. Because then Ohio State will go in, and then Penn State. All they have to do is win out, and then Penn State will be in the playoffs, and Ohio State will be out and
Penn
forgotten.
State also has 2 losses.
They do, but they can still make it. I think. So you know how I said that they added there's no chance of a 2-loss team. Well, now that 3 of the top 4 have lost, there's a very good chance of a 2-loss team.
I don't know. That's close, but I mean, okay, here.
USC beating Washington. There's one of the biggest upsets, 26-13.
And USC.
How did this happen?
USC is on a 6-game win streak. They're on a roll. They came into Washington, and Washington was not expecting them to be this good, because let's be honest, Washington has played a lot of crap opponents over the course of the season.
If you look at the other 2 of the top 4 upsets, They were only by a last field goal
they were-
1 point.
This was the worst. Yeah, this was the biggest.
It was the worst upset.
But it was also the best team.
It was also
It was also the best.
it was also the best. Yeah, it was the that's true.
And then Michigan going down to Iowa. Personally,
Field
this
goal at the end.
personally this was the most surprising to me because USC is a good team. They're number
Yeah,
20.
for me too.
They could have been there. And I thought, you know what, Clemson's very unstable all year.
That's me too.
But Michigan, I still so badly want to see
But
Michigan
you see,
play
Michigan
Alabama.
can still make it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they still
Michigan,
will.
I think that out of the top four out of the three of the top four that lost, they have the best chance to stay in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They went down to Iowa 14-13 last second field goal. Clemson lost to Pittsburgh
On a last second
42
field
to
goal.
43 by Blewett. He missed every single other field goal in the game.
No, he didn't miss.
And a 48-yarder to win the game.
He
Clear shot.
he didn't blow it this time.
Perfect. Blewett did not blow it.
And then Alabama just routing Mississippi State. I mean,
No big
I
surprise
was
there.
expecting Mississippi State to play better though.
I was
after
not.
their big
Actually,
upset.
I was not because this happens
Just
so many
slightly
times.
better.
It is sports. People win big games, then the very next game they lose. They have a terrible rest of their season. That's just the way it goes. You have a great upset, goes great. It's just like the Georgia then to Nichols. They barely beat Nichols by 2 points.
And
right
guess
after
what? They
beat
didn't have to
UC.
rely on their defense this time.
Yeah, they didn't.
So yeah, so their offense put up plenty of points.
Yeah, it's 51 points. Wow.
Florida
State beating Boston College. Not even close. 45-7, and they were winning the whole time. I mean,
Louisiana Lafayette beating Georgia Southern, who thought could be a very serious contender for at least a decent bowl game.
Yeah,
God.
they're out now.
No, it's not. I mean, they
have to win their last.
they'll beat Georgia State, and yeah, and then
North Carolina Duke.
and Duke.
Oh,
I mean, North
Carolina, another upset down to Duke.
North Carolina could have basically secured
The ACC.
the
Yeah,
ACC.
the ACC.
And then
ACC
Virginia
goes-
Tech could have easily secured. And then they got upset by the other
so
Tech.
it looks like now it's going to be either Georgia Tech
No,
or
Tech. Unfortunately, I don't think Tech's gonna make it. It's still I think within North Carolina and Virginia Tech, but I personally think it's gonna be North Carolina. Utah beating Arizona State, not a big surprise. And then Western Michigan keeps their undefeated season alive. They're 10-0, beating Kent State. So yeah, that's gonna conclude our.
Actually, yeah, that's going to conclude our review, and now we are going to go into the next week and show you a few of the bigger games for next week. So there are a lot of big games next week, actually, surprisingly.
So
Let's start with Louisville, Houston. The two of the teams that weren't expected to do well, but have done okay. Houston, they have 2 losses.
Can you imagine?
Wait, I thought that Houston had more than 2 losses.
No, can you?
Just
Can you?
two?
Can you imagine if both of these teams were still in it? How big of a game this would be?
Yeah, I mean, they were expected to be after the first couple games.
Yeah, it's insane.
A&M.
A&M playing Texas San Antonio. They'll get a breather there after some tough losses. Georgia playing a no-name team in Louisiana Lafayette. They won't win. I mean, Georgia will win that game. Army with a chance to be bowl eligible against a crap Morgan State team, who's crap playing the crap teams. Ohio State and Michigan State. Could Michigan State come out with some fires? They've had a horrible season. Could they?
I would be glad to see Michigan State.
I would
big
love
game.
to see that. I think that this is a potential upset.
It is a very potential upset because Michigan State, they need this game to actually have an okay season.
And Senior Day. Senior Day. Could they come out with some fire? Even though Clemson's Senior Day didn't go so well.
Yeah, possibly. Oklahoma State, TCU. TCU needs this one to become bowl eligible, and Oklahoma State needs this one to be playoff eligible. Possibly.
And then Iowa playing Illinois. Georgia Tech and Virginia.
Oh,
We expect Tech to pull that one out, though.
We do. But it would be a huge upset for Virginia.
Yeah, but it's not gonna
Maryland,
happen.
Nebraska.
Oh, by the way, the Michigan quarterback is out for the season, so that's gonna be rough.
Maryland, Nebraska.
Yep, and then Miami, NC State, and Florida, LSU. Boy, is that gonna be a good game.
Florida wins this, they have the East. If they lose it, it's going to Tennessee.
Yeah, this is to clinch the East. Well, I mean, Tennessee still has to get through Vanderbilt. You never know.
That's
They lost to South Carolina. Then Oregon and Utah, which 2 years ago would be a huge game. Georgia Southern and Georgia State, big rivalry game down here in the South.
Duke and Pittsburgh, who both pulled off a huge set. Well, not Duke, huge, but it's pretty big. Florida State, Syracuse. Syracuse has had that one against Vatek.
And Washington State, Colorado. Two very big surprise teams.
Yeah, I mean, Washington State, they're only 2 losses.
I know.
And
And
they could
and
stay- they
listen
could
to this.
still
Listen to this.
beat-
Listen to this. Undefeated in the Pac-12. If they can beat Washington, or if Washington can lose one more game, and Washington State, if Washington loses one more game, I don't think they will.
They could lose to Washington
They
State.
they could lose to Washington State. Washington State's in the Pac-12 championship, and if they win that,
They're probably in the playoffs.
they could make the playoff. But Colorado, same thing. This is but these
Well,
two.
Colorado, though, has one
watch out.
loss.
This is going to be. This is going to be we're going to see this rematch in the Pac-12 championship unless Washington can win. Virginia Tech and Notre Dame is in jeopardy of becoming unbowl eligible.
They are. And
And-
Virginia Tech has proven to be a very good
And
team.
Tennessee has to also get through Missouri.
Which, I mean, Missouri has only won 1 game in the SEC, and that is over Vanderbilt. That's sad.
It's sad. It is. They almost beat Georgia. That was very close.
Yeah, it was. Is last couple seconds Hail Mary.
Was
Well,
no
not Hail Mary.
Hail Mary.
No, it wasn't a Hail Mary, but it was 4th and 10.
And by the way, North Carolina, who's 17, is playing the Citadel.
Who's 10-0?
Who's 10-0?
They're undefeated
Well, they're
and unranked.
Well, I mean, in the FCS,
Because they have, like, terrible strength
Not
of
not in the FCS. In the FCS, this team is like number 3.
Well, yeah, that's true.
It's like the crappy team standings. They're number 3. They're the 3rd best crappy team. Behind like North Dakota State and
So
like Jacksonville State.
UNC.
No,
Upset
it's
alert.
not gonna happen. But I don't think it's.
Upset alert.
Wait, fans, tickets are only $9 to that game. So yeah,
Bring up my words. Oh, wow, yeah, these are very cheap
games.
tickets.
Especially Indiana playing Michigan. Indiana, who's come close to upsetting many teams. I'm just saying. They're not gonna win this game, but watch out. This is gonna be a close game, just like they do with everyone. And so yeah, and Stanford and Cal, another Wake Forest and Clemson. And
Watch out for that game.
at Wake Forest
Watch out for that game.
and Wake Forest
Clemson's
Is that-
going to lose.
and
Hopefully.
and
I don't think so.
and Wake Forest has had a surprisingly good season for them, 6-4. Chattanooga and Alabama. I think everybody in the country is going to be rooting for Chattanooga, but let's be honest. And by the way, Chattanooga is 8-2, so they're like 7th on the crappy
Arkansas.
team list.
Arkansas, 25. Mississippi
They won't be
State.
25
Mississippi
after
State
the rankings
needs
come
to
out.
win this game
To be bowl eligible.
to be bowl eligible. To be possibly bowl eligible. They're the worst team in the SEC West.
Alabama A&M.
They're the only bad team in the SEC West.
That's true. Even though they beat A&M, Oklahoma and West Virginia. Can then Oklahoma ruin West Virginia's season?
They can.
We'll find
Because
out
West
this
Virginia
Saturday.
is still, I mean, all of the teams in like the top 15 or 16
Yeah.
have the possibility to make it in the playoffs now.
Yeah.
So
And then USC UCLA. This is a big rivalry game. It's at the Rose Bowl in UCLA. I won't be surprised if UCLA could pull up that upset. I mean, it's a rivalry
They
game.
need this game too. They
Yeah.
need it more than USC.
And
And it's a rivalry game.
rivalry games are normally close.
And UCLA needs this to make it bowl eligible.
And it's at the Rose Bowl. It's where
is.
UCLA plays. So
And actually, the tickets are $103
minimum.
minimum.
And those are like the bought and resold ones. So yeah. thank you much for listening. And as always, but not really as always, but now pretty much always, a good
Bye.
bye.